Welcome. Thanks for joining me this Sunday night. And now we're on to another one of my favorite topics. Boy, we're just hitting everything that I like to talk about. Following green energy. Now we're going to talk about the Doge stuff that's going on. And I got to tell you, it was kind of interesting because Rahm Emanuel sat down with Bill Maher on his show. And maybe you've heard the clips or not, or maybe you haven't heard them. But I thought this kind of gave me a smile when I heard this.
It took a fire and a natural disaster to make you realize, you know what, that rule's not that important. In Pennsylvania, a bridge collapsed. All of a sudden we go, well, that environmental rule is just not important. We got to build a bridge. It's much more important. And I think the Democratic Party should take a look at it and say, we're going to be honest, like we did in 1994 with reinventing government. Everything is on the table. Nothing is safe. And we're going to just look at it and say, that's essential. Those two things get out of here. And that doesn't happen. And that's a fair criticism.
Well, it sounds like to me that the Democrats now want to pretend that they're the original Doge experts, that they're the ones who, believe in, getting rid of regulations, excess spending and all of that stuff. I mean, who drove that 94 revolution? Oh, we all know who it was. It was the Republicans who did. And I'm forgetting his name right now, George. Who's the guy? The Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. He's the one who drove that 94 revolution during the Clintons' midterms. He won massively with the Tea Party. And by the way, Doge, before there was Doge, guess what there was? Open the books. And Adam Andrzejewski. And, I'm just, every time I think about Adam, I just think about he's probably dancing up in heaven seeing what's happening here now with all the work that he has put in bringing out government accountability, which is exactly what Elon Musk is doing. And no doubt Adam would be right there along Elon, trying to ferret out all the misspent funds and save taxpayers' dimes, and save taxpayer dimes in real time. Kind of like his slogan with Open the Books is. Well, here to discuss that and the good work that they continue to do at Open the Books is Rachel O'Brien. She is Deputy Public Policy Editor for OpenTheBooks.com, and she's an investigative journalist. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me on The Real Story.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Jeannie.
Yeah, any just comments in general about what Doge is doing and how Open the Books is helping or not helping or involved in the effort at all? I mean, you guys set the model out. Let's be honest.
Yeah, we've been doing this, like you mentioned. Our founder, Adam Andrzejewski, he started Open the Books right there in his Chicago suburb neighborhood, where he lived with his family, because he wanted to see more transparency in local government. And of course, it just grew over the years. We say that we were Doge before Doge was Doge. We, at Open the Books, we put every dime online in real time. As you said, that is our slogan. It's city, state, and federal spending. If you want to know what your government is spending on paying employees, or what they're paying contractors, what they're paying for goods and services, which companies they're doing business with, that's what we're putting online. We filed 50,000 Freedom of Information requests last year. We do that every year. It's a pretty thorough sort of map that we have of the country and that government. So we're excited about the Doge effort. Adam would have been very excited about the Doge effort. Of course, they're making headlines. They're very flashy with Elon Musk, not pulling any punches, and Donald Trump together, the two of them, of course. You couldn't make up their personalities and their enthusiasm. And so we are, sort of taking the opportunity now that the country seems to have the appetite for this, right? People are finally interested in finding where there's waste, fraud, and abuse and fixing it. And so we are sort of, being able to, I guess, put our work out there, let people know that the work that we've been doing all this time is sort of the work that Doge is doing. We just didn't get the flashy headlines. And so we're excited to have this opportunity to just highlight our work and showing what taxpayer funds are going to, where there's waste, where there's fraud, where there's abuse, and how we can save it. There's a lot of great ideas that don't take a lot of, sort of crazy cuts. There's some really good ideas that we have that other people have that can just save that money.
Well, you guys are still gathering quite a few headlines, and let's look at one of those. This, of course, was in the New York Post. HHS splurged more than $22 billion on grants for migrants, including cash for cars, home loans, and startup businesses. I mean, these are the kinds of explosive headlines that get people really upset. And that Adam was so good about getting up there on, Laura Ingraham's show or wherever else and just essentially telling people what the government's doing with their money. And these are the things that are absolutely alarming. $22 billion on grants for, giving them cars and home loans. What the hell? I mean, and I will tell you this. Last week, we reported on the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce that was literally taking in millions of dollars in state and federal money. And according to their 990, over half of their money was spent. It was given to them through a government grant. And yet part of what they were doing was trying to educate business owners who were here illegally how to avoid ICE raids.
Right. Yeah, obviously that's wasteful spending. There's nothing more to say about that. That obviously shouldn't be any money that should be spent on that. So we looked at the Office of Refugee Resettlement. They're part of the Department of Health and Human Services. So the Office of Refugee Resettlement, essentially what they do is what's in their name. So they spent $22.5 billion since 2020 on grants to nonprofits, and those nonprofits help illegal immigrants with everything from getting Medicaid to building credit to help with home loans and auto loans and cash assistance, actual hard cash. And so, obviously this is something that is, not only should it be done, this is sort of acting as a giant magnet for people who are seeking to cross the border and claim asylum, that they're going to be getting all of these things. We look at New York City, where I live, and if you're a migrant and you come here, you get housing, you get gift cards, you get food, your kids get to go to school, you get health care. New York City, they actually had the federal government claw back $80 million of that, and the city is suing the Trump administration. But why should there be a handout for people who are here illegally, attracting them to the country? It really makes no sense.
So the interesting thing about this, and I do want to make this point, because where I'm from in Wheaton is one of the headquarters for World Relief. And World Relief does have a contract. They are part of the contracting system with the federal government to actually resettle actual refugees. Like maybe they're coming from Burma, where they have been, religiously persecuted. Maybe they are under, other political persecution in actual, but these are refugees that have been vetted for 2 years in a refugee camp before they come over here. What you're talking about here these are folks that the Biden administration basically classified as a refugee, but actually probably don't meet those standards. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's hard to know the exact legal status of every individual. But yeah, I think it's safe to say that these are not all people who either arrived here legally, or if they have arrived here legally, they have not stayed legally. Right? You can't.
Well, I think it's also right to say that we shouldn't be giving them a home loan. We should not be supporting them with a home loan or a startup business cost. I'm sorry, we just shouldn't be.
Absolutely. So especially if you're given a short amount of time where we're helping you, you're
it's supposed to only be 6 months,
not permanently.
Oh, right.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Or even refugee support is only supposed to be around the length of 6 months. I mean, I looked into this a lot once I was a state rep, because I got to know their program. So,
right, so if it's supposed to be temporary, of course, you shouldn't be getting any sort of loan.
That's right.
This agency, ORR, Office of Refugee Resettlement, we looked into them. Not only are they giving, of course, this assistance, but they've got some really big problems in the agency. Just a couple of things. They can't find thousands of unaccompanied children. The New York Times says that it's 85,000 unaccompanied children. We don't know where they are. The new borders are. Tom Homan, he's actually estimated that that's closer to 300,000, where these children were sort of lost after being sent to their sponsors who were supposed to watch them. So the agency itself needs to come under a lot of scrutiny, investigation for sure. Their former director has close ties with some of the top organizations that got funds from ORR. She's no longer director, but at the time, the director was Robin Dunn Marcos, and she gave an astounding amount of money to organizations that she previously worked with. And so,
the self-dealing it too. Yeah, the self-dealing is just unreal. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And we, Open the Books asked about this. We asked for records. We have not gotten the records that we filed, the Freedom of Information request for. Very lengthy wait time. So this organization needs to, or this department rather, needs to have much more transparency in their business dealings. And they need to be looked at really closely by the Trump administration, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Since if you don't mind, I'm just going to keep you over a little bit, and I wanted to talk to you a little. I wanted to talk to you before we go to break here a little bit about this Medicaid issue, because I know that you've delved into the Medicaid spending, and John Hart wrote that article about lessons learned from the earmark moratorium for the Doge era, and you talk specifically about how we're not addressing a lot of our problems with Medicare and Medicaid spending as well.
Yeah, well, so Medicare and Medicaid spending made up the largest chunk of improper payments every year. They make up the largest chunk of improper payments, money going to the wrong people for the wrong amount or for the wrong reason. And so year after year, these programs are just completely rife with waste, fraud, and abuse. And when you're talking about improper payments, you're not talking about changing who's eligible for benefits. You're not talking about cutting people off. You're talking about improper payments, billions of dollars every year that could simply be saved if the federal government, the bureaucracy was doing what they were supposed to do in paying people the correct amount of money. So Medicare and Medicaid is the very tippy top of where we should be looking to be fixing how they're spending money. You mentioned earmarks, right? There was a 10-year ban on earmarks between 2011 and 2021. Before that ban, there was an average of $20 billion a year spent on earmarks. Now, earmarks are just pet projects.
Yes, they are.
Congress members' districts, they don't get any scrutiny. Mm-hmm. They don't have to pass muster in any way. They're simply a Congress member asking for money for something in their district, right, to make their constituents and their voters happy. So if we were to put that ban back in place, we could be saving all of this money. And it's not just the earmark ban that creates savings. Senator Tom Coburn, he fought against this pork barrel spending when he was in the Senate. And he often argued that earmarks are the gateway drug to Washington's spending addiction. And history has proven him right. When you get rid of earmarks, it helps Congress sort of sober up and reduce overall spending. Unfortunately, when this ban ended, both parties, Republicans and Democrats alike, brought earmarks back. The spending shot right back up to almost $19 billion. It's been between $15 and $19 billion since 2022.
Yep.
So we could cut this money
Yep.
Every year and bring some responsibility back to Congress's spending.
Well, Illinois has the same problem. They have earmarks, but the only people who get it are the Democrats. They cut out the Republicans entirely. It's so shameful. Okay, well, she's Rachel O'Brien. She's the Deputy Public Policy Editor for Open the Books, and she's an investigative journalist. And I want to thank you so much for joining us on The Real Story. You can go to openthebooks.com. They have so much information. Nobody should be complaining that they can't find out what's going on. Their website's amazing. Pension data, salary data, down to the state level too, not just federal level. So, Rachel, thanks so much for joining me on The Real Story. I really appreciate your time with me tonight.
Thanks so much for having me, Jeannie. This was great.
Okay, and we'll be right back.